Cool. So I'll just start like this then.
Yeah,
Welcome
no
to
problem.
another episode of The Grill. With me today is Josh Laplap. You may know him as the Final Cut God. We already had the Final Cut Bro. We're moving up in the rankings. How are you today, Josh?
I'm very good. Thank you, Chris.
How did you come up with the title Final Cut God?
You know, um, I think I came up with it because of there was this Instagram creator, this video creator. His name was Gimbal God or something like that.
Okay.
And he's very good with a gimbal. I'll tell you that much. And I remember just like, it would be interesting to have Final Cut plus God at the end of it. And then I didn't even think of like the repercussions of like calling yourself God of something. And I wait for the days that people are going to be like, oh, you call yourself a god? You don't even know this part about Final Cut. And there's
You
a lot of
made you
things that I'm still learning about. Of course, it's something you learn about, and yeah,
I always thought it would be a good idea just professionally to get Final Cut certified, like because there's classes that you can take.
of course,
And I
yeah,
realized that one of my biggest shortcomings is I don't know what any of the stuff is called.
yeah.
And if you think about it, it's like a written test.
Hmm.
And so like I don't can I just sit down and edit something for you? So anyway, yeah. And plus you don't want to, deal with, pissing off people about their religion. But anyway, I think
For
it's
sure.
cool. No big deal. All good. So Josh, we've never spoken before, right?
And no, I think so. I think Matthew Pate introduced. Well, he told me to. There was some communication with like Matthew Pate. I believe you know him.
Yeah.
And you DM'd me, and I thought, oh, I would love to yap.
So what was interesting is I started reading through your Threads account and I'm just like, I just dig this guy's attitude and it very much echoes a lot of my personal, thoughts and frustrations. And I was like, we should hang out. We should have a conversation.
That's awesome.
So how long have you been editing?
Well, I have been editing since like I was in grade school, primary school, if that's what people call it in North America. Probably like grade 4 or 5. Like back in the day, I picked up a Windows Movie Maker. Um, I would say since back then, but I only started really taking it seriously like right after during university, really. That's probably like 18, 19 years ago now.
Okay, so let's say movie maker. You're
Yeah.
the movie maker god. What else have you cut in?
I've cut in Windows Movie Maker. That's very important for everyone to know. It's very classic. I've cut in the old Final Cut Pro 7.
Okay.
That's when I was in university. I took a media class or something like that, and Final Cut Pro 7 was the standard.
Yep.
And then, of course, I think during that time, Macs weren't that like I guess prolific in my life. I guess, and so to use to edit videos or anything like that, I would use Premiere. And I picked up Premiere like pretty quickly because, Final Cut Pro is pretty much the same thing.
So Premiere 7, excuse me, Premiere Mac or Windows?
Windows. I had a Windows machine in university,
Yeah, okay.
and I was with Premiere for the longest time. I thought that was probably around like 2012 to 2018, and then I picked up a Final Cut Pro, whatever the modern one was back then in 2018.
10 or yep, yep. Okay,
Yeah.
so if you were editing in Premiere in 2012, that would have been after the Creative Cloud became a thing, right?
Yes. No, I think it. Okay, sorry. I think I got the timelines mixed up. I probably picked up Premiere around like 2010-ish, but I do remember being excited about, oh, they're going subscription only, which means it's not going to be that expensive to like buy a license. I was excited for I remember being excited for the monthly payments because it's like, oh, it's only I forget what it was back then, but I remember being excited.
I want to say it was like, wasn't it like 25 or $50 or something? I think it's like 70 now.
Yeah, it used to be quite much. Sorry, it used to be much cheaper to do like the whole Creative Cloud, and I remember thinking, oh, this is a great deal. How the tides have turned.
But what you said was very interesting because that was one of their arguments, that if it's just a subscription, Josh will have no problem paying for it because he doesn't want to pay. I think the full Creative Suite was like $1,400 back then.
It was, yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I think for cash-strapped students back in the day, I think it was I mean, and I know like from being in like in like startup culture now that, people have an easier time digesting whatever, $50 a month, $40, $30 a month versus seeing a, sticker shock of $1,400 for the entire Creative Suite. But I mean, in the long run, I think it's been I think it's been detrimental for sure. But I remember just like when I was young, I was like maybe 20 or something, or 21, 22, being like, oh yeah, now I can finally just go month to month.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think of the repercussions of like, oh, what people say now is like, they don't have that incentive to really make things better if they've got everybody by the balls.
Yeah. And that's not to say that the Adobe apps are absolutely, they've been improved. They're different. But if you think that that mindset doesn't infiltrate a big company like that, I think you're a little crazy. So how did you get from I'm a monthly Premiere user to being a Final Cut user?
The biggest thing for me was that I was working. So I used to do a lot of YouTube travel stuff,
Yeah.
and one of the people that we collaborated with one time, his name is Danny McGee. He does some amazing work, like doing motorcycle vlogs right now across like different parts of the world. I remember seeing him using Final Cut Pro, and I was just like, oh, that's interesting. Like I thought, for people like me, for people like us in like the field, or like young people, Premiere was just like the way to go. And I didn't actually see him work on the machine, but I remember thinking that I think that was the first seed in my head that like, oh, other people are using other things. And that was just a seed that was planted in my head. And then I actually, well, I think another thing that happened to me was I was on a different shoot for like this other production company, and he asked me to help edit for him. And he was like, "Hey, do you edit?" And I was like, "Yes." And then he asked me, "Oh, do you edit in Final Cut Pro?" And then I was like, "How hard can this be? How hard can this be?" Because I was like, "Okay, I need the money, so I'm not gonna turn it down." So I'll
Right.
lie about having uh, I lie about having no how to use Final Cut Pro. Can't be that hard to really learn, can it? And so I got all this I got like the library, and I was like, wait, what is this? Why is there only like one file? Oh, it's in here. Okay. And then opening up Final Cut Pro at that time was like, okay, this is drastically different.
Yeah.
Drastically different.
About what year was that?
I think that was around like 2018, 2017,
Okay.
around there. Um, and then I think I don't know how well I did with that Final Cut project that that production company asked me to do. I'm sure they were like, this guy's lying. Like, why is everything on the secondary timeline? So I think I got smoked out there. And it wasn't until like I think like I had just done this trip with like the YouTube channel that I was with. I had done 60 days of daily video editing in Bali, where me and my friends, the creators of the channel, would create content every day, and then they would just dump everything to me, and I would be responsible for editing all night so that we could publish the next day. And that was a great experience. And I just remember during that time, just really getting annoyed with crashing, like Premiere Pro crashing for some reason,
Yeah.
and you know, losing work from like the last saved point you have. Like when you go back to Premiere, you're like, or sorry, when you use Premiere, you get pretty comfortable with like hitting Command S
Yeah.
every time you remember, or like every 5 minutes or whatever. So
It's
there
like
would
a
be time.
lifeline.
Yeah, it's like your lifeline. And I remember just thinking at the end of that, those 60 days, that like, okay, I can't recall how many times it crashed, but it crashed for sure at least a few times, like every few days or something like that. And you'd lose momentum, and then you'd have to like remember, oh, what the fuck did I, what the fuck did I sequence here? Because like I was in a flow. You break your flow, and then you have to wait for it to rebuild. You have to go back into the, save, not save, like the auto save
Auto save.
projects.
Yeah, yeah.
And then like it's numbered from like 1 to 99 if you set it to, 99 saves or whatever. And you have to not rebuild the project altogether, but you have to try to remember, what was it I was just doing here? Or like even the last 5 minutes. And if you're lucky, you saved it within the last 5 minutes. Sometimes you lose hours of work.
Yeah, for
And
sure. For sure.
I remember thinking, oh, the number of times this has happened, I probably wasted so much time. And I think around this time, I think I really don't know where I got like the come to Jesus moment, but I remember thinking, or hearing about, oh, Final Cut Pro rarely crashes in on a Mac, and oh, autosave is just like, it could crash and it will your where whatever your last edit is going to be there.
It's pretty much literally everything you've done is there. I don't know that I've ever lost any work.
Hmm.
Maybe a couple of clicks, but
Yeah. And so, like, when I heard this, sorry, not when I heard this, but like I was just starting to get more curious, Final Cut Pro curious, so you could say. And then I just bit the bullet and, spent the money to, buy the app. And then I just figured it out in like, I guess maybe 2 or 3 weeks, maybe. Just putting it, just learning about the, magnetic timeline, connected clips, things like that. And yeah, that's around 2018 was when I realized that, like, I'm so sick of the crashes. I can't imagine, because I used to, in those from like 2010 to 2018, I can't imagine how much time I've wasted like on crashy stuff versus oh, sorry, on crashing and like, losing time, having to rebuild stuff. I can't imagine how much time I was spent in total.
yeah. Well, what's super interesting is it seems like there was an understanding in the circle of people that you were bumping into,
Yeah.
that there was clearly some advantages of using Final Cut. I'd be very interested to find out if those people today, now, what is it now, 8 years later, do you know if any of them are still in Final Cut, or have they been, tempted away to like Resolve or whatever?
For sure. Like, so I believe that guy I mentioned earlier, Danny McGee, he still works in Final Cut.
Yeah.
And I tried to introduce Final Cut to, like, the YouTube team that I was with at the time. And one of my friends picked it up and he was like, oh, he loved it. But eventually that person went away to Resolve, because he wanted a much more powerful, like, coloring mechanism, or whatever you
Yeah.
call it. And he moved away to Resolve, and like he became a, pretty serious, like, long distance runner, filmmaker. So a lot of his films are very intricately graded, and he just lives in Resolve now. And I think I've tried implementing, because I used to work at a production company when I first moved to Toronto. I worked at a production company that was pretty much all Premiere, and then I was the only Final Cut guy in the office. And they let me do that, which is fine, because I was mostly working social and like short form content or vlogs, YouTube vlogs, things like that. And I tried implementing like a database system that I hoped everyone could try and get on, because the tagging system and the way files are, arranged in Final Cut Pro, I just find to be much more superior, because it's like object based instead of file based, or
Yeah.
however people mention it. And I tried implementing that into the post-production world for that, and they've still stayed on Premiere just because, there were, this I'm not with that production company anymore, but I know that they're fully remote, and like team projects is much, the team collaboration thing is very important for them, which Premiere has in droves.
Yeah, I think that there is the in whatever circle you're in, there tends I find that most of the decision making process is not based on the editor's experience.
Hmm.
It's I, and I have yet to really see Premiere in a work group
Hmm.
like you're saying. I'm actually kind of surprised a little bit. I've been trying to get a friend of mine who's a big time Premiere user to come and chat, but he's always too busy. Um, I think he's recovering from crashes, is why he's so busy. No. Uh, and then there always seems to be like the peer pressure is like, oh hey, we're all going here now.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you've ever tried to edit in Resolve. I did a handful of jobs in it a couple of years ago because the guy I was working for had his reasons, whatever. And I was like,
Yeah.
dude, this is a horrible experience. It's really bad. Didn't understand it.
For sure. Like, there's if you're ever on like Facebook editing groups or whatever, like there's always these memes that come up that like sitting in front of Resolve or Premiere can feel like you're sitting in front of like the plane's cockpit, and there's just so many buttons, and it can be very overwhelming if you're not used to it. And what's interesting is like I was just back on one of my friends works as he makes like mini bikes essentially. And he
Mhm.
also does his own filming and editing. And he asked me to work on an edit for him. And he's only Premiere. And he was like, I already have like the project entirely set up in Premiere for you. You just have to link it and then do your, touches here and there, and that'll be good. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, fine, I'll do it. And when I stepped back into like the Premiere interface, it was just like so overwhelming and just like, what the fuck is going on here? They've really added stuff on top of stuff. I mean, there's obviously there's ways to customize things, which is which is great. Everyone can customize it the way they want. But I just remember feeling like, oh, I'm feeling very tense from just like looking at all these panels.
Yeah. So let's talk about, do you ever see results that your friends are doing in Premiere where you go, ah, maybe maybe I should switch back because that's a pretty cool whatever that he just did, and I can't do that in Final Cut.
I don't think I've ever felt that like at all. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone says in this industry, every editing app is a tool. It's how you use it. I think you would be able to achieve the same result, with whichever of the the major editing apps are. I definitely don't feel like when it comes to maybe like when it comes to color. Yeah, sure. Maybe when I see some of these like amazing, you know, uh, Resolve power grade kind of, videos, I'm like, oh, interesting.
I I've never seen anybody do anything in Resolve that I couldn't do in Final Cut.
Right.
And maybe I'm an idiot, and I will gladly wear that badge, if you can show it to me. And
Hmm.
I've done multiple episodes about color, and there are some technical things about the whole. Are you familiar with ACEs?
Hmm.
Yeah, so I learned about, that's part of the reason why I wanted to do the show again, is I do learn from doing it and talking to people that are smarter than me. But, but that being said, I've never been I've never been in a point where I was like, I don't have a tool
Yeah.
to do what I need to do. I've always felt I had the tool to do what I need to do. The the bigger thing holding me back is just the connection between my eyeballs and my brain, you know? And
Yeah.
I think it wouldn't matter what I was working with. I'm still going to have that problem, you
Yeah.
know? I don't think I'm a good colorist. I'm not a colorist. I know I'm not a colorist, but I also don't do that kind of work. So anyway, that could be a thing. Well, let's talk about the things that you like most in Final Cut. If you were going to sit down with one of your Premiere buddies and say, dude, give me X number of minutes, let me explain this to you, to try and sway their opinion.
Let me just think about this and how to say it. I think the one thing that if I had time to sit down with somebody for 5 minutes, I would just do the same thing that whoever was on stage at the introduction of Final Cut Pro 10, they did a demonstration of like the magnetic timeline and things just automatically like you
Clip
know,
collisions.
clip collisions and you know, stuff getting out of the way for so that you could put your clip there. Um I would just do maybe like something like that, maybe a little bit more elaborate things like that. Like I would probably just do maybe multiple clips with no connected clips and then, you know, shuffle things around and show them like, oh, you don't have to drag everything, put them here and then arrange it how you want in the space. I think I would do that. And then I would probably the next dramatic demonstration I would do is probably like, let's say you have a scene that's already fully built next to another scene that's fully built with, you know, your sound effects, you know, your connected clips of like B-roll and things like that, titles if you have those, you know, whatever, load them up. And then just show that, hey, I want to move this entire scene with all these sound clips and connected clips here. I want to move it to the front. I want it to be in front of this other scene and show them like, oh, everything just moves along with it. And
Because
you don't
it's
have to
connected,
spend
yeah.
because it's connected. And I think I'm thinking of this right now because I was just in Premiere, right? A few months ago. And moving things around in that, like to reconstruct scenes if you have to move them is a nightmare. Is
Yeah.
really it really is a huge nightmare. And I think I can't even think of how much time I've lost as well in in that recent project that I did. How much time I've spent like having to rebuild scenes and timing and all that just because the magnetic timeline wasn't like, you know, wasn't work was I didn't have the magnetic timeline to play with. So that's
You know what
probably
I like? You know what I like most about a connected clip? So think about, I've done this a bazillion times.
yeah.
You have a you have a transition and it's like dip to white, come out of it to a graphic,
Yeah.
dip to white, come out of it to the next scene.
Hmm.
And then there's a little, maybe a sound effect in and out of it. Okay. So I worked on that. I was actually in it too. If you had asked Henry Ford. So all of those things, I have the music preceding the dip to white,
Yeah.
and I have the music trailing out under the next scene. And because it's all connected and not just, because some people will say, well, just make a compound clip of that or a nested clip or what, you know, I'm sure there's a way to do that in Premiere. But
Hmm.
because I can just pick up that thing and move it,
Yeah.
all of that stuff as long as you connect it properly, all that stuff that trails and precedes just goes with it.
Yeah.
And not to mention, if I just want to drag the length of that soundbite out before I go to the chapter head or whatever. Yeah, I think that I find myself saying to people all the time, if you don't understand the benefits of connected clips in the magnetic timeline, I really can't have this conversation with you. You know,
Yeah.
like I would love to explain it to you, but there's a whole bunch of words you don't understand.
Okay.
So
Well,
We're
if
kind
you
of at an
need,
impasse.
yeah, if you need it, if you need a dumbed down or like really simplified way of that, magnetic timeline is like I would I okay, here's another thing. I remember when I first was getting into Final Cut, I remember, just being on forums and like, oh, there's this great documentary that's out about Final Cut and the transition and all this. It was like, was it Off the Tracks?
Yeah.
So I
I
watched
was,
that.
by the way, I was a co-executive producer for Off the
Oh,
Tracks,
okay.
which
Wow.
means all that really means is I, I gave Brad a bunch of money to help get it done so he could continue to
Wow.
take care of his family while he was making it. But yeah, I worked on that. I was actually in it too.
Okay, I have to watch it again, but I did do my research. I'm so sorry.
No, that's totally fine. I love the fact here. I love here's me in the bit.
Oh, okay.
Here,
That's you.
so I can't think. Hold on. Let's watch this scene because this is one of my favorite bits. Mainly, partially because I'm in it. No, but this I love the way this works. So let's just. If you had asked Henry Ford, what did people really want? He probably would have said they wanted a faster horse. But instead of making a faster horse, he made the car, right? The automobile. Now, if you get in an early Ford and you had sat there and taken leather reins and thought that you could go like this and it would make the car go faster and pull them back and make the car stop and pull them to one side or the other to make the car turn, that sounds ridiculous because we have the steering wheel and we have the gas and the brake. The metaphor changes and the user interface changes too.
I don't begrudge people who say the timeline just doesn't work for them, they can't work out, because when you use it to begin with, it's like driving a car and the things are all in the wrong place, or you try and turn left and it actually goes right. They inverted the whole, when you delete a clip, it ripples. That's an inversion of every other NLE.
Wow, look at that.
What we needed to do is at least be confident as designers that we were building metaphors that actually existed in the world. So
here it is. This is my favorite scene.
All your clips is a bunch of little kids blocks sitting on a platform. Then when you pull one of the blocks out, then everything would collapse up, except no, I'm wrong. If you did have a bunch of kids blocks sitting there on a platform, you pulled one out, they wouldn't close up. And this was exactly the problem. So what we did was we took this concept of the blocks on a platform and we put it at an angle. And when you put the blocks at an angle and you take one of the blocks away, they do close up because of gravity.
There it is.
The magnetic timeline was very disorienting for about 10 minutes, and then you realize how brilliant it is.
Then you suddenly get it. And once you're past that point, it's fine.
Yeah.
Is that the scene you were going to mention?
That's the scene, the exact scene that I was going to mention. That scene probably is like the most memorable for me. Is that rotating, like sliding down to illustrate. That thing probably helped me unlock just like, oh, this is what it's about. And the second scene that really moved me to really get on board with Final Cut Pro was like at the end. There's stuff about kids and how they live in a somewhat, I don't even remember what it was, but I just remember thinking, oh, these people are kids are gonna be like the future users of editing tools, and the way
I wasn't in that part, so I don't remember it as well. Well, actually, you know what? It dawned on me when I started to play that. I almost didn't play it for you because I did play some of that when I had Brad Olson on the show a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And we went and we actually kind of almost did what they call director's commentary track about
Sure.
this scene, and we were stopping it a bunch of times and talking about it. But he told the story that when he finished shooting the magnetic thing, I think I want to say it was his wife. And she said, "Oh, well, when you were done, did it say magnetic?" And he went, and he had to set up all the gear to shoot that scene again, and he reshot it so that it would reveal the word magnetic. I think I might be remembering the
Oh
story
man,
wrong.
you know,
Super powerful.
behind every great man is an even greater woman.
Okay, thank you. Yes. So so that's very interesting. There's our connection. That's why we're
For
sitting
sure.
here. Good.
And
So
the one thing I wanted to add is like, yeah, at the end of that documentary, there was this scene with children playing and like using the touch surface of like an iPad or like an iPhone or something like that. And I can't even remember what it's exactly about right now. But I think they were trying to draw a bridge between between how we use, I think it was like about our fingers or something like that. But I just remember I might have to watch it again. But I just remember thinking like, oh, kids are going to be, there's going to be children that's going to be growing up with like a different set of tools, or like they're going to be so media literate, so like video literate, that
yeah.
perhaps, track-based editing is not going to be for them. And I felt that magnetic timeline, the magnetic timeline mechanism is obviously the way to go, especially if you're going to be editing on like touch surfaces. And I mean, and that's pretty much true for like even, something like CapCut on your phone. I believe it's magnetic. I believe Edits, which is the short form video editor for Instagram, it's also magnetic. I think any standard video editing app for the phone or your iPad is magnetic. And I was like, okay,
Yeah. If you've ever delivered a video to a client with, hundreds of edits in it,
yeah,
and then you get the message saying, "Hey, there's a flash frame of blank at this point," and you realize it's like, I missed one point where my two clips weren't touching
yeah,
because of, reasons. And it's like, why would you want to live in that world? And everything, and that's what I say about Resolve all the time. In 1991, when the first Avid was available, yeah, that was cool. But we're living in the 21st century now. Why would you live in an app where a mistake like that is possible? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
right.
Hey, thanks for letting me interrupt my show. I want to ask a favor of you. If you've enjoyed what you've seen so far, and there's more to come with Josh, but if you've enjoyed this or you've learned anything from it, I'd like to ask you to do me a favor. What has this time been worth to you? Did you learn anything, or was it just fun? And if you could be so kind, use this QR code, this one right here. You take a picture of it with your phone, click and hold on it. It'll take you to the Square website. And it's an open-ended question. What do you want to give to support the show? It's a donation on your part, and I really appreciate it. But here's the game we play. If you're the highest donor, sorry, Bobby Brady on you there. If you're the highest donor any given week, you get to be the executive producer. Now, this week, we've had two producers, and something a little bit different than we've ever seen. There's been two separate producers. The first was Mark Britton, and Mark is a guy I know from Office Hours, and I was showing him how this worked, and just out of the blue, he just sent me $10. Oh, and his comment was grill. So I think that was more something for him. And then the other donation I got just the other day was from our friend Mark Spencer at Ripple Training. And Mark's comment was, keep it up. So thank you, Mark. Mark also donated $10. So between, oh, wow, the two Marks. Hold on a second. Yeah. It's a double mark week. So double marks, co-executive producers. Thank you very much. And let's get back to Josh. He's going to tell us about a video he made about captions in Final Cut. Hey, so let's talk quickly about your. I watched the video that you published about a year ago about the captions.
Yeah.
And I loved it because there was that edit in the middle where you went and researched what ITT was, and then you came back and you're like, I think I'm going to be really angry about this. I think this is going to kind of piss me off.
Yeah.
Do you think a lot of people got mistaken about the captions versus titles thing?
For sure, in the beginning, yes. I think like I think a lot of people for sure were mistaken, and that's what happened, right? Like when they first introduced not auto, but like automatic captions.
AI generated captions, yes.
Yeah, I remember thinking, "Oh, this is gonna be great," and then I tried it, and I was like, "This is this is just a halfway measure for now."
Well, it's interesting,
And
this is what we do, though. A lot of times we hear something, and in our brains, we interpret it the way we want it to be. And I think a lot of people got confused about the different, because they didn't, in their mind, captions were subtitles. And that's a different thing. It is a different word. But I love the honesty in your video, because you could have very easily gotten to that point where you went, and I think most of us would have. I would have, where I would have just said, this is crap. Never mind. Hit stop. Throw those files away. I'm good. I'll publish something else. But I loved the honesty of it. What was it like when the 12.3 came out, though? Wasn't that awesome?
yes, I would say that it's probably like one of the one of the biggest things on my wish list that finally got
Really?
delivered. Yeah, one of the biggest things because I do work in short form quite often, and like I normally in the past I normally just export a ProRes file, take it into TikTok, take it into CapCut, and then run it through there. And then if I need to make any more adjustments, final adjustments, I just do that in CapCut, put the captions in, titles or whatever you want to call it, and then just work from there. I actually used to work a lot in when I was working with this software company, and we did a lot of interviews and stuff like that. We needed a lot of interviews cut into what's this? Cut into short form, and we were usually working on like quite tight deadlines. And my system at that time was to transcribe everything in Descript, and then their video editor is all right, not the best. I would do a rough cut in their in Descript, XML that into Final Cut, do everything the pizzazz that I need to do in that, and then bring it back into either Descript or CapCut to do captions / titling. So I'm glad like a lot of that I don't necessarily have to do anymore. But yeah, with regards to like the subtitle thing for Final Cut Pro 12.3, I think it's very close to a home run. It's a home run, but it's not like it's out of the park.
Well, have you looked at Dylan Bates's captions subtitle package?
I watched the video for it, and I haven't dived into it. But I watched the video. I was like, okay, I should pick this up. I
had Dylan on the show, and he was really gracious. He goes, here, let me send you a code to get it. And I looked at it and was like, no, dude, you can have my $30 or 50. I can't even remember how much it was, but it's so impressive. There's so much stuff in it.
Okay.
And I will say that in the weeks following that, I was sort of bothered by the fact that there's not an easy way to audition the different styles with your thing.
Yeah.
And in like a week or two after that, he published a video. It's like, I was totally wrong. This is how you do it. And it's super easy to do. I can't remember what it was, but it's worth going to look at it. Maybe if I think about it, I probably won't. Put a link in the description, dude. But Dylan posted a video on how you can select all your titles. I think you like just double click on another style or something in the bin, and they all magically change. So it's worth taking a look at.
Okay. I'll definitely take a look.
So are you still doing a little bit of this Final Cut to CapCut, CapCut to Final Cut craziness?
Not that much anymore. I think like
Good.
when it comes to like the work that I'm doing, it's most the kind of work I do doesn't require any of those, outlandish TikTok title animations or effects. I like that they have the options, like in CapCut. Like they have tons of options, but realistically, for the work that I do, like I really only need one or two that I can, pretty much easily achieve in Final Cut. I like that in Final Cut for the subtitles, you can have the options for like, per word highlighting, or you can fill the sentence with the color. I love that part. But I don't need any fancy animations or like, I don't need anything to look like fire or electricity or some brain rot shit like that. I don't need to do that.
So Josh, if you could somehow magically take over the Final Cut team for a week or a month or a year or whatever, what are the 3 things you would like to see them put into the application?
You should have sent me notes. You should have sent me notes to prepare.
Dude,
because
I like making people squirm. This is
okay,
real
all right.
television.
Number 1 for sure is text to edit. That's probably the biggest thing for me. Like that's a native solution. That's probably number 1 because I really enjoy the text to edit format that Descript was doing. I don't have to really do much of it right now, but it helps. I found that I was at least getting to a rough cut fairly faster using like the text to edit method. And I would love that. Number 2 is I would love for a way to like have a bin of like my favorite transitions, favorite effects.
Oh yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, sometimes you're digging through a bunch of folders and really in a given month I might use 5 things. Yep.
Yeah, but like obviously I don't throw away all my other effects because like it might come in handy later
that
on.
Day.
There will be
that
that day.
Make stuff look like fire and electricity.
Yeah, or like I need a fucking star wipe. Or are we allowed to swear on the show?
Whatever. You know what I love? I was doing something last weekend where I ganged a bunch of shots together in my phone. My wife and I went camping, and it dawned on me that in iMovie on the phone, I love this. The icon that you click on if you want to do a wipe is a star. And then you select what type of wipe, but they chose to make it a star wipe. I think that's such a funny nod from the development team that they made the wipe icon a star.
That's so funny.
Okay, so text to what do we call it?
Text to edit.
Text to edit. Okay. Are you familiar? Do you know Rafael Ludwig? I think he's in Toronto also.
Oh, interesting. I believe, I've come across his name. I believe he's also like a Final Cut creator, correct?
He is. He's been on the show. Go back and look at that. He just released in this last year. The man has been on a tear.
Okay.
producing apps to help editors. And one of the ones he has is a thing called PowerCut, which is a text-based editor. But it does more than just text-based editing, because it'll do some of the things like take out the gaps,
yeah.
take out the filler words, and it does the thing where it's like, like it realizes, oh, this is your third take and you finally got it right.
Yeah.
So it'll just pitch the two bad takes. And it's he's got it on his website, rafaelludwig.com. There's a whole tab for the different apps that he's been producing, but it's super impressive. He has that one. He has a thing called, it calls it Power EQ, which is, and he'll tell you this. He says, look, I'm not really good at audio, so I decided to make audio plugins for somebody like me. Like, just make it better. And then he's got a PowerDuck for ducking audio,
I've seen
music
that app.
under. He has another one I just saw the other day called Power Skin, and it's a skin tone fixerizer. So anyway, Rafael's been on a terror the last couple of months, but that PowerCut might be something. So I do want to hear your third thing. Actually, let's hear your third thing. I challenged you with 3 things. You gave me 2.
For sure. The third thing is going to be, I know people have asked about this for a long time, but some form of audio mixer where you can.
I thought we were going to squeak by without getting the audio mixer request.
Yeah, I used to. Here's the thing. I know that a lot of people have asked for that in the past, and I used to think, it's not that hard, not that difficult to like Control V, Command C, Command Shift V onto every audio clip that you need to get it all the same effects or whatever. Until recently, like I had to work on a fairly long project, and I was like, even just like a regular 10-minute YouTube video, like it would be nice to just have like, okay, isolate the roles, right? Like that we're all familiar with, and then like apply this effect to the whole entire role. That would speed up a lot of time for
at the risk of beating a dead horse. Back to Rafael.
Yeah.
In his he just recently released a video about his PowerDuck, and he goes through the workflow of finish your cut, get it the way you want it, compound clip the whole thing, reveal, expand the components, use your roles properly, expand your components, and then you can apply something like a compressor to all the dialogue all at once. Because every time there's an edit and a new instance of the compressor hits, there's some ramp up time that can be super detrimental. So anyway, that's another good thing to go look at. So the question I almost destroyed our top three things with, and we'll wrap up here. What's your take? And this is just something I've been curious in talking to other editors about. What's your take, pro or con, on the philosophy of Final Cut doesn't do everything, but it's so extensible. There's so many ways that developers can create plugins for it, that basically if there's something you need to do, just go find the plugin that you need, and it might be $30, it might be $50, whatever. Rafael has a special on PowerCut right now. It's only $75. And he didn't pay me to say that, but I might ask him to. But what's your take on when people say, "Oh, that's BS. I don't want to have to buy another plugin"?
That's a good question. I think that's something I've always had to, and that's something that I don't really actually think about too often, is having to buy the plugins. Like I've had to buy my fair share, but I feel like every app now, every editor, in at least from the majors, they all have third-party tools and third-party to so-called help you with your editing. I don't
I don't
find
think
it
you
to
could
be
find
that bothersome.
I don't think you could find a single Premiere editor that hasn't spent at least a few $100, if not a couple thousand, on plugins. It
For
just
sure.
seems so pervasive.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, how many times? I can't think of how many times I've had people say, "Well, don't you have Boris?" I go, "No, I don't have Boris." You know?
Boris FX.
Yeah. Still, people, don't you have Boris? Just go into Boris and whatever.
Yeah,
Anyway, Josh, thanks for doing this. It
of course.
was great. It was great to meet you. A lot of fun. What's coming up next for you?
Well, I would like to get back into YouTube. No, I mean, like, I have been on YouTube for a long time, but mostly as like an editor or a strategist or things like that. But I would like to take, content creation much more seriously. I think one of the things that I'd like to do moving forward, because like I started my Final Cut Pro channel a long time ago, is that I do think there is kind of like a blue ocean when it comes to like educating the public regarding Final Cut Pro. And I think like I've made some connections with a lot of different Final Cut Pro users, and my idea back in the day was to interview these users themselves. And I guess like my philosophy for my show would be, there are Final Cut Pro creators of all kinds. Like there is, short form creators who use Final Cut Pro. There are, people in very professional settings who use Final Cut Pro. There are, for example, there's this one guy, his name is Mike Klum, and he edits long form YouTube documentaries very professionally in Final Cut Pro. And I think that's one of the biggest things that uh, that I want to be, if I had more time and like focus, was to really be like an evangelist, but at the same time, like a valiant soldier is what my Threads profile says. Most annoying / valiant soldier for Final Cut. I would like to, you know, take the message of my message would be that would for people would be that there's all there's many different kinds of Final Cut Pro users out there, and yeah, that's probably what I want to be next for me.
Cool. Well, I think Apple will appreciate it. There's a lot of us out there, banging that very drum. So it's good to talk about. All right.
Apple's never gonna. I don't think Apple will ever invite me to anything because, like, I do take hard shots at the app from time to time.
I don't think I'm allowed in Cupertino anymore, let alone to Apple. But yeah, that's a long story. All right,
Yeah.
Josh, thanks for chatting. Okay.
Of course, great to meet
All
you.
right. So let me turn this off.